power, legacy, and the illusion of invincibility. For nearly a century, the Murdaugh name ruled the South Carolina Lowcountry, a family so deeply woven into the legal system that some believed justice itself bowed to them. But behind the prestige was something darker: secrets, scandals, and ultimately, murder. Today, we're diving deep into the collapse of one of the most powerful families in the American South, and the man at its center, Alex Murdaugh. In every murder investigation, one question guides everything: who had the motive, the means, and the opportunity? It's the question detectives ask when the trail runs cold. It's what turns random evidence into a case, and a suspect into a killer. In today's story, we're breaking down a case that seemed picture-perfect on the outside. But when the truth came out, it was fueled by obsession, jealousy, and premeditated violence. This is not just a story about murder. It's about control, about rage, about what happens when fame and ego collide, and someone doesn't walk away. Let's investigate. For generations, the Murdaughs were the closest thing the Lowcountry had to royalty. 3 consecutive members of the family served as the region's top prosecutors. Their private law firm was feared, respected, and untouchable. Alex Murdaugh inherited this legacy, a life paved with influence, money, and the kind of connections most people couldn't imagine. To understand the rise and the catastrophic fall of Alex Murdaugh, we have to go back nearly a century, to the beginning of a Southern empire. The Murdaugh dynasty didn't just practice law in South Carolina's Lowcountry, they defined it. In 1920, Alex's great-grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh Sr., became the region's first elected solicitor, the top prosecutor. He wasn't just a lawyer, he was a force. His son, Randolph Murdaugh Jr., would take the role next, followed by Randolph Murdaugh III, Alex's father. For almost 100 uninterrupted years, the Murdaughs held this position. 3 generations, 3 powerful patriarchs, a near monarchy in a corner of South Carolina. Their reach was everywhere. They worked with every police chief, knew every judge by name. When a case involved a Murdaugh or a Murdaugh ally, people whispered. In the courtroom, the Murdaughs were treated like royalty. Outside of it, their law firm grew into one of the most dominant in the state. And then came Alex, the next in line. Growing up a Murdaugh meant you didn't just succeed, you inherited success. Expectations weren't suggested. They were a birthright. Protect the family name, continue the dynasty, and never ever allow the legacy to crack. But behind the charm, the old family photographs, and the good old boy reputation, pressure was mounting. As Alex's father grew ill, as the old guard passed on, the weight shifted squarely onto Alex's shoulders, and instead of rising to meet the legacy, he began to drown beneath it. Alex was struggling with a long-term opioid addiction. There were rumors of tension, financial pressure, and fear of failing the dynasty's expectations. Alex wasn't the only Murdaugh man struggling to rise to the family's long-standing expectations. His sons, too, seemed to be drowning in the shadows of the family name, or at the very least, failing to flourish under the weight of it. Paul, the younger son, was charismatic, but known for reckless, often dangerous behavior. Most infamously, in 2019, Paul was driving a boat drunk when it crashed, killing 19-year-old Mallory Beach. The case attracted massive attention. Many questioned whether Paul was being protected because of his family's influence. The Beach family filed a lawsuit that threatened to expose the Murdaughs' private finances and put enormous pressure on Alex. Buster, the older son, was quieter, more reserved, but also struggling with expectations and scrutiny. Together, the family's facade was cracking, and Alex was right in the center of it. Maggie, caught in the middle of a legacy in turmoil, tried to hold her family together even as it began to fracture. While the world focused on Paul's criminal case, a much bigger secret was boiling underneath. Alex Murdaugh was accused of stealing millions of dollars from clients, co-workers, and even from the family of their longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. In 2018, Gloria Satterfield, the Murdaughs' longtime housekeeper, died after what was reported as a fall on the family's property, a death later scrutinized for inconsistencies. Following the incident, insurers paid out millions in wrongful death settlements intended for her sons. But Alex Murdaugh secretly diverted more than $4 million of that money into accounts he controlled, stealing the settlement that was meant to support her family. These weren't small mistakes. They were elaborate financial schemes, and as investigators closed in, Alex's empire and image began to crumble. His partners confronted him about missing money. Clients demanded answers, lawsuits piled up, his addiction worsened. And investigators would later argue, this pressure, this unraveling, became a motive. On the evening of June 7, 2021, tragedy struck. Alex Murdaugh called 911 from his Moselle hunting estate, reporting that he had found his wife, Maggie, and his son, Paul, brutally shot to death near the dog kennels. The community was shaken. Two members of a prominent, powerful family gone. And Alex, the husband, the father, appeared devastated. But investigators began noticing details that didn't match Alex's story. His timeline shifted, his behavior raised questions, and then the bombshell. A video found on Paul's phone placed Alex at the kennels with Maggie and Paul minutes before the murders. Even though Alex had repeatedly denied being there, this became one of the most critical pieces of evidence in the trial. The trial of Alex Murdaugh began in January 2023 and drew national attention. Prosecutors argued that Alex killed Maggie and Paul to buy himself time, to turn the focus away from his financial exposure and derail the lawsuits closing in on him. They painted a picture of a desperate man, cornered by the consequences of years of lies. In a stunning move, Alex testified in his own defense. He admitted to lying, admitted to stealing millions, admitted to being at the kennels, but he denied murder. His words, "I would never hurt Maggie and Paul ever." After weeks of testimony, nearly 800 pieces of evidence, and the scrutiny of millions watching worldwide, the jury returned a verdict: guilty. Alex Murdaugh was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. The Murdaugh dynasty, once the strongest legal forces in the South, had completely collapsed. Alex was later sentenced to an additional 27 years for financial crimes. The family name that once commanded power now carried tragedy, betrayal, and scandal. Looking back, it's impossible to ignore the patterns: power without accountability, wealth without oversight, addiction, entitlement, and a family reputation that shielded bad behavior for far too long. The Lowcountry had given the Murdaughs influence, but it also gave Alex the confidence that he could outrun the truth. Forensic psychologists examining the case often point to a combination of long-term behavioral patterns that may help explain Alex Murdaugh's actions and decisions, not as a diagnosis, but as a profile of traits commonly seen in complex criminal behavior. First, there's the issue of entitlement reinforced by generational power. Growing up in a family dynasty where influence was inherited, not earned, can create a belief that rules are negotiable. In Alex's world, consequences were often softened or avoided entirely. Over time, this can lead to a dangerous sense of invulnerability. Then there's the pattern of compartmentalization, a psychological strategy where a person separates their actions from their emotions to avoid confronting guilt or moral conflict. Alex lived parallel lives: the respected attorney and family man, and the man behind the curtain, stealing millions, manipulating clients, and spinning lies to cover more lies. This ability to shift between roles allowed the deception to continue for years. Another key factor: chronic stress coupled with long-term opioid addiction. Addiction can impair judgment, increase impulsivity, and heighten desperation. As his financial schemes began to unravel and his reputation faced collapse, Alex may have entered what forensic experts call a pressure cooker state, where fear, loss of control, and diminishing options collide. Finally, psychologists note traits associated with pathological lying and impression management. Alex repeatedly chose deception as his primary coping mechanism. Even under oath, he admitted to lying about his whereabouts and financial crimes. This pattern suggests a cultivated ability to manipulate narratives, maintain charm, and present whatever version of himself served him in the moment. Taken together, these elements form a psychological profile not of a spontaneous criminal act, but of a man living in a carefully constructed illusion, one that began collapsing long before the murders. And once the facade started to crack, the lengths he went to in order to preserve it became part of the tragedy. In the end, the story of Alex Murdaugh isn't just about crime, it's about the fragility of legacy, the danger of unchecked power, and a tragic reminder that even the most powerful families can hide the darkest secrets. If you like this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on the bell notifications so you're the first to know when our next video drops. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Alex Murdaugh was driven by his opioid addiction, crushed by the weight of a powerful family dynasty? Or was it greed and entitlement that ultimately led to the destruction of his family and his own freedom? Was the boat crash lawsuit tightening like a noose, poised to expose Alex Murdaugh's hidden financial schemes and reveal that the once untouchable dynasty was buckling under debt, lies, and ruin? Was Maggie beginning to see the cracks she could no longer ignore, suspecting ongoing opioid addiction, feeling the weight of secrets stacking around them, and perhaps even contemplating leaving him? Or worse, revealing what she knew he'd done? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're here, check out our other videos and stay connected for more deep dive true crime stories.